When the HOA president boxed in his ranch and locked the gate, most people expected Anthony Ridley to cave. Instead, he turned the tables with one move no one saw coming. Anthony had seen storms tear down fences before, but never one like this. One made of rules, arrogance, and a padlock he didn't own. One March morning near Abilene, he stepped onto his porch with a mug of coffee and froze. A brand new steel fence ran across his property line. Not his, not even on his land. And the only way in or out was a gate with a heavy lock and a sign. Property access, managed by the Lakeside Meadows Homeowners Association. His cattle grazed inside, penned like zoo animals. The old access road to the county highway was now behind that gate. The only key belonged to HOA President Marjorie Kane, a woman known for sharp suits, sharper heels, and an even sharper tongue. Anthony had moved here 6 weeks earlier, leaving behind Amarillo's noise. At 46, with calloused hands and a back that still ached from branding season, he'd saved for years to buy this spread. Peaceful mornings, steady ranch work, cattle lowing in the wind. He hadn't counted on a homeowners association, let alone one that would literally fence him in. By the time he reached the gate, 2 men in polo shirts were tightening bolts. "Morning," Anthony called evenly. "Mind telling me what this is?" "Talk to the board," one muttered. Then he saw her, Marjorie, stepping out of a spotless silver SUV. Sunglasses high, clipboard ready. "Mr. Ridley," she said briskly, "you've been notified of your non-compliance issues." "Non-compliance with what?" "Perimeter fencing must match community standards. Yours does not. Until it's corrected, this measure will prevent further violations." Anthony gestured to his cattle. "That's my access road. My animals need water from the creek. And that isn't your land. The access easement is controlled by the HOA, she replied. It's in the covenant you signed when you bought the property. You can lock me in until I comply. Contact our office when you're ready to discuss the approved fencing style. Have a pleasant day." The gate clanged shut. The lock clicked. That night, Anthony sat with his neighbor, Glenn Porter, a retired trucker. "She's got the board wrapped around her finger," Glenn said. "If she doesn't like you, she'll make your life miserable. I didn't move here to get pushed around by a committee. Then be ready for a fight. She won't give you that key unless you play her game." Anthony wasn't sure how far this would go, but one thing was certain. He wasn't backing down. This land was his dream, his work, his future. 2 days later, he walked into the Lakeside Meadows clubhouse for his first HOA meeting. The room smelled like stale coffee and old carpet. Every seat was filled. Marjorie sat at the center of the board table, navy blazer perfect, smile sharper than glass. "Mr. Ridley," she said into the microphone, "you're on the agenda under compliance matters." The first 40 minutes were a blur of pool hours and mailbox colors. When his name came up, he walked to the front, boots echoing. "Let's talk about your fence," she began. "It's the same design I used for years," he said. "Functional, safe, keeps my cattle in." "Functional isn't the standard," she replied. "Community aesthetics are. Yours doesn't meet specifications. This is a ranch, not a golf course. My fence is for livestock, not looks." A man at the table cleared his throat. "Rules are rules, sir. We can't make exceptions." Anthony met his eyes. "You already do. 3 houses on my street have different fences, and none are locked in." A ripple moved through the crowd. "Those cases are under review," Marjorie said quickly. "Meanwhile, your fines will continue until correction." "How about the fact that your fence blocks access to my water source?" "You have other water sources," she replied. "We confirm by satellite imagery." Anthony laughed bitterly. "You think you can tell from a photo how I run my ranch?" Glenn raised his hand. "Marjorie, maybe give him time. He's been here 2 months. The HOA must maintain standards, Mr. Porter. If Mr. Ridley wants to be part of this community, he must follow the rules." "And if I don't?" Anthony asked. "Then we continue fines, and if necessary, legal action." He walked back to his seat, jaw tight. After the meeting, some neighbors whispered support. Others avoided him. Marjorie had more influence here than her title alone. Outside, Glenn caught up. "She's not just strict. She's got friends on the zoning board and a cousin in real estate." People think twice before crossing her. Anthony looked back at the clubhouse, where Marjorie was shaking hands with a man in a suit. If she wants a battle, he said, she'll get one. By the next week, his mailbox was stuffed with HOA compliance office letters. Fines started at $50 a day, then $100. One notice claimed his fence was a visual inconsistency detrimental to community appeal. I'm raising cattle, not hosting weddings, Anthony muttered. They know what they're doing, Glenn said. They'll bleed you until you fold. At the next meeting, Anthony went to listen, not argue. He watched Marjorie handle complaints with icy precision. An RV parked too long, a porch light too bright. The tone was always the same, efficient, intimidating. Afterward, a woman approached him. You're Ridley, right? The rancher? That's me. I'm Paula Green. They forced me to cut down a tree last year. Marjorie doesn't care about rules. She cares about winning. Then why let her? Because she makes trouble expensive, Paula said quietly. Her words stuck. The HOA wasn't about harmony. It was control. Anthony called the office next day. I'm requesting mediation. When the session came, he arrived with photos, maps, and notes. Marjorie sat across the table, flipping pages like she already knew the outcome. The HOA will waive some fines, the mediator began, if you replace your fence in 60 days. That's not a compromise, Anthony said. That's your same demand with a discount. We're being generous, Marjorie cut in. Most people don't get this chance. Most people don't have their animals trapped behind your lock either, he replied. The mediator tried to redirect. Let's stay practical. The practical option, Anthony said, is you unlock my road. Marjorie smiled faintly. We'll be in touch. That night he sat on his porch, listening to his cattle in the dark. The line had been drawn. Days later, the real breaking point came. The new fence didn't just block the road, it cut off the only creek on that side. His cattle stood restless, pacing near the barrier. He rattled the gate, shouting, but no one answered. He called the HOA office. My cattle need that creek. They'll die without water. There are other water points on your property, the receptionist said flatly. Those tanks are backups. You want dead cattle? I can forward your concern to the board. That afternoon, Anthony drove to Marjorie's house. This isn't about fines anymore, he said. You're cutting off my water. The HOA operates under uniform standards, she replied calmly. Exceptions undermine integrity. Integrity? His voice rose. You're talking about fence color. I'm talking about animals. The rules are the rules. Anthony clenched his fists. This isn't over, neighbors peeked from behind curtains. It wasn't a dispute anymore. It was a show. Within days, the stress hit his herd. He hauled water tanks daily, burning fuel and money. One afternoon, Glenn shook his head. She's wearing you down. She's not getting what she wants, Anthony said. I'll haul water till I drop, but I'm not rebuilding that fence. The letters kept coming. One included a photo of his tilted water tank, calling it a safety hazard. That's harassment, Glenn said. That's Marjorie. Then one morning, something changed. A for sale sign appeared on the small half-acre lot containing the gate. Technically separate from both his ranch and the HOA, it was the choke point for all access. If he owned that strip, he'd own the gate. He drove into Abilene to meet Tom Beard, a local attorney. I want to know if what they're doing is legal, Anthony said, spreading out documents. And if I buy the land, do I control the gate? Tom studied the pages. They're operating inside the covenants you signed. That's the bad news. The good, if that parcel isn't HOA property, yes, you'd have full control. But you'll need to buy it quietly. If Marjorie finds out, she'll block it. Anthony nodded. Meaning my name can't be on the paperwork. Exactly. He contacted an old friend, Brett Lawson, who ran a property firm 2 counties over. Brett agreed to set up an LLC under his company to hide Anthony's involvement. A few nights later, Glenn found him studying a plat map. You're cooking something up, Glenn said. If I told you, you'd have to swear it stays between us. My lips are sealed. Anthony laid out the plan. When he finished, Glenn grinned. That's bold. I like it. Marjorie seemed to sense something shifting. She started showing up near the fence, clipboard in hand, pretending to inspect. Mr. Ridley, she said, we've scheduled another inspection. You can schedule all you want, he replied. You're only making things harder for yourself. And you're underestimating me. 2 days later, Brett called. Seller accepted the LLC's offer, closing in 3 weeks. For the first time in months, Anthony felt victory within reach. But Tom warned him. The deal's not final until the ink's dry. Don't celebrate yet. Anthony kept quiet. He waved to neighbors, hauled water, and acted normal, though every night he imagined unlocking that gate with his own key. A week later, Paula warned him in the grocery aisle. The board's sniffing around that lot. Talking to surveyors, Anthony called Brett. We need to move faster. I'll push the title company, Brett said. We can get escrow open by Friday. Every tire crunching on gravel made Anthony tense. But Friday morning, Brett called again. It's done. Escrow's open. You're locked in, Anthony exhaled. Let's close it fast. The closing date landed on a gray Tuesday morning. Heavy skies, no rain. Anthony dressed like it was any other day. Worn jeans, dusty boots, plain shirt. He drove into Abilene quietly, parking behind the title company's brick office. Brett was already inside, flipping through paperwork. Ready to make Marjorie's life complicated? He grinned. Let's get it done, Anthony said. Because the LLC was listed as the buyer, Anthony's name never touched the papers. Brett signed, slid them across the desk, and within an hour the deal was sealed. A heavy silver key sat on the table. Brett pushed it toward him. They're yours. Anthony picked it up, the weight of months of frustration in his hand. This wasn't just metal, it was leverage. For months, Marjorie had dictated when he could reach his own land. Now, with one twist of that key, everything shifted. They left quietly through the back door. Congratulations, Brett said. You just bought yourself a gate and a fight. Back at the ranch, Anthony parked by the road and walked to the lot. The same gate stood there, but now it looked different. His. He slid the key in, turned it, and the shackle popped open with a sharp final sound. He swung the gate wide. The cattle wandered toward the creek, their hooves soft in the dirt. For the first time in weeks, Anthony felt peace. It lasted 2 days. On the third morning, a white SUV stopped in front of the gate. Marjorie stepped out, clipboard in hand, 2 board members behind her. Mr. Ridley, she said coldly, you appear to have accessed HOA property without authorization. This isn't HOA property anymore, Anthony said evenly. I own this lot. County records will confirm it. Her eyes narrowed. Impossible. The association has first right of refusal. Maybe you did. You didn't use it. Seller took my offer. The gate's mine. Paperwork and all. One board member shifted nervously. Marjorie, if that's true, she cut him off. We'll see about that. Turning back to Anthony, she added, don't think this is over. We'll challenge it. Challenge whatever you want, he said. But this gate's mine. They left without another word, but the tension in the air was thick enough to choke on. That afternoon, Anthony received 3 emails demanding clarification of ownership. He forwarded them all to Tom. Let them make the next move, the lawyer replied. Within a week, word spread like wildfire. At the feed store, strangers clapped him on the back. Others warned him the HOA wanted revenge. Glenn stopped by that evening, found Anthony on the porch with coffee. Looks like you lit a fire, Glenn said. Good, Anthony replied. Maybe it's time people stop being scared of her. But taking the gate was just round 1. The real fight was coming, and it would drag the whole neighborhood in. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived. Cease any alteration to the property pending legal review. Anthony took it straight to Glenn's. They're bluffing, Glenn said after reading it. If they had a case, they'd already be in court. Bluff or not, Anthony said. They're not quitting. That Saturday, as Anthony hauled feed, he spotted Marjorie at the gate again, this time with 2 sheriff's deputies. Anthony parked and stepped out. Morning, officers, one deputy nodded. We got a call about a property dispute. We're just here to keep the peace. This is my land, Anthony said, handing over a copy of the deed. Bought fair and square. Marjorie folded her arms. That property has always been under HOA management. He's interfering with community access, The deputy checked the papers and nodded. Everything checks out. He owns it. Marjorie's jaw tightened. We'll take this to court. That's your right, ma'am, the deputy said. But for now, no law's being broken. She left furious. Neighbors watched from their yards, murmuring. The community had split, half cheering, half siding with her. That night, Anthony's phone buzzed. A text from Paula Green. Be careful. Emergency board meeting Monday. They're drafting new rules to hit you hard. He showed up early Monday. The room was packed, tension thick. Marjorie wasted no time. As many of you know, she began, recent events have exposed gaps in our ability to maintain standards. The board proposes a new amendment granting HOA authority over any access points serving more than one property. Anthony raised his hand. Convenient considering you're targeting me. This isn't about you, she said. It's about the community. Then why does it only affect my gate? The back and forth grew heated. Anthony pointed out the amendment gave the HOA control over land it didn't own. Marjorie countered with talk of security and consistency. When the vote came, the board split 3-2 in favor, but it still needed homeowner approval. After the meeting, neighbors pulled Anthony aside. One, Frank Delgado, whispered, "You're not the first she's tried to steamroll, but you might be the first who can beat her. Keep going." By midweek, the fight spilled onto social media. Posts about the Ridley Gate War flooded the local page. Anthony stuck to facts, sharing public documents. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds, neighbors taking sides like it was an election. Then came an anonymous envelope. Inside, a single note, "Check county filings tomorrow." Anthony did, and his stomach dropped. Marjorie had filed a notice of intent to purchase an adjacent strip of land running beside his fence. If she got it, she could build another road and cut his leverage in half. He drove straight to Tom's office. "She's trying to box me in again," he said, dropping the papers. Tom read them, nodding. "Clever move. But that strip's county-owned, earmarked for utilities. She'll have to clear a lot of red tape. We'll file objections, request review, slow her down." "Do it," Anthony said. Whatever it costs. Tom got to work. But outside the legal fight, things exploded. The local paper ran a front-page story. Rancher battles HOA over locked gate. The photo showed Anthony leaning on the fence, arms crossed, the image of defiance. At the feed store, strangers shook his hand. "About time someone stood up to them," one man said. Not everyone agreed. At the grocery store, a woman wearing an HOA badge muttered, "You're making this harder for all of us. By the weekend..." A talk radio show debated his story for an hour. Property rights versus neighborhood order. Then came the annual community barbecue, usually small talk and brisket, now a full-blown standoff. Some wore Ridley's right pins that Glenn had printed. Anthony stayed on the edge, plate in hand, but Marjorie approached with her usual plastic smile. "Enjoying the event?" "Not as much as I'd enjoy having my time back instead of fighting your nonsense," he replied. "You've made your point," she said. "But the HOA will enforce its rules. You'd be wise to think about the long-term consequences of all this publicity." "You've ruled with fear for years," Anthony said. "That ends now. People nearby stopped talking, watching." Marjorie noticed, her tone shifting. "We can still work this out without dragging it through the courts." "You had that chance months ago," Anthony said. "You chose the lock instead." Her heels clicked away across the pavement. Later that night, Paula called. "She's furious. She's losing control of the narrative. People aren't afraid anymore." "Good," Anthony said. "Maybe that's the real win." But Marjorie wasn't finished. 2 days later, Tom called. "She filed a lawsuit," he said, "challenging your ownership, claiming irregularities in the sale." Instead of intimidation, Anthony felt calm resolve. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about every neighbor who'd been bullied into silence. When the deputy delivered the thick envelope, he gave Anthony a sympathetic look. "Guess you knew this was coming?" "Yeah," Anthony said. "I was waiting for it." The documents were dense, easements, covenants, legal jargon. But underneath, it was a last-ditch attempt to take back control. Tom reviewed it the next morning. They've got nothing solid, he said. The sale was clean, the title clear. They're hoping you'll tire out and settle. I'm not settling, Anthony said. Weeks passed as the case crawled through county court. Each hearing drew locals, some supportive, others glaring from the back row. Marjorie always arrived early, immaculate and cold. During one recess, Paula stopped him in the hall. Win or lose, you've already changed things. People are questioning the rules now. Anthony nodded. Appreciate it. But I'm not after a moral victory. I want a real one. That real one came on a bright Tuesday morning in early summer. The judge ruled. The purchase was valid. The title stood, and the HOA had no authority over the lot or gate. The association was ordered to pay Anthony's legal fees. The gavel hit. A murmur spread through the courtroom. Glenn grinned from the second row, giving a thumbs up. Paula beamed. Even a few quiet neighbors shook Anthony's hand. Outside, reporters waited on the courthouse steps. Anthony kept his words simple. This was never about offense. It was about principle. You don't let someone take what's yours just because they think they can. I hope this reminds people to stand their ground. Back at the ranch, he drove out to the gate. The cattle grazed by the creek, water glinting in the sun. He leaned against the post, feeling the breeze. No wait, no locked gate between him and his land. Glenn joined him with 2 beers. Feels good, doesn't it? Anthony smiled. It's more than that. It's knowing that when you stand up once, others might find the courage to do the same. Weeks later, he noticed a quiet shift at HOA meetings. Board members spoke carefully. Neighbors asked questions without fear. The shadow Marjorie cast had thinned. And that, Anthony thought, was the real win. If there was one lesson in it all, it was simple. The moment you stop letting others write the rules for your life, you start living on your own terms. So if you're listening to this, and you've got your own locked gate, whatever it might be, don't assume you have to accept it. Ask questions, push back, and if the fight is worth it, don't stop until you've turned that lock with your own key. Subscribe for more real stories that remind you your voice matters, your rights matter, and no one can fence in your life unless you let them.